Hi. We all know that these days we live in a deeply polarized world, and it's that polarization that is endangering our very existence, since it prevents us from living together peacefully. It seems that many of us have come to the conclusion that getting rid of people who believe differently is the only answer to the problem. But that's just a recipe for nonstop conflict, violence, and war, which doesn't seem like a very good answer to me, at least. Polarization is a very big piece of the puzzle of life that we're struggling with at this point, and it would make our lives much better if we could figure out a way to situate that piece of the puzzle so it doesn't cause us as many problems. Now, one step toward this end would be to cultivate a greater understanding and appreciation for the idea of relativity in human behavior. As I've said in a previous video blog, we human beings tend to think in black and white terms, which is a way of thinking that underlies polarization. If that way of thinking could be just tweaked a little bit, or tweaked a lot maybe, it'd probably lessen the amount of polarization and allow us to work and live together better. Thinking of things in a little more relative terms could be helpful in that regard. I once heard relativity explained with this great example. Imagine three people on the same street, each a block away from each other. A fire truck comes down the street with a siren blaring. As it passes the first person, that person hears the siren tone change and get lower as the truck goes by. The next person, who the fire truck is now passing, hears a higher tone than that first person. The third person, whom the fire truck is yet approaching, hears an even higher tone. And if each person happened to have a machine that identified tones, the machines would also register different tones if they were done at the same time. So the question is, what is the true or correct tone of the siren? Well, the answer is, it depends. The tone is relative, depending on all the different factors in the situation. The legal system deals with relativity all the time. If someone is being prosecuted for causing some harm to another person, a guilty verdict will depend on a number of relative factors, like the person's intention, whether or not they were intoxicated, whether it was an accident or on purpose, etc. Now, it's pretty unrealistic to believe that what I perceive, that is, what I hear, see, touch, taste, or smell, is the same as what you perceive. It's unrealistic to believe that. Or that my judgment and assessment of a certain situation is automatically the way you see it. A person who is, for example, who has been attacked by a dog will understandably be more careful about petting a strange dog than will a person who has had only good experiences with dogs. Our life experiences, along with our different physical attributes and abilities, create differences among us. That is neither good nor bad. It is just reality. And polarization, however, rears its ugly head when we ascribe evil intent to someone who thinks or behaves differently than me. In human relations, it's helpful to keep in mind that differences are normal and may not be the other person's way of being belligerent or stubborn or hateful or anything like that, just because they are different, doing something different than I am. I found a useful practice that helps me keep this in mind. I'll come up with 5 different reasons someone might behave or think differently than I do in a given situation. That helps me to get used to not automatically jumping to the first negative reason that comes to mind for why they're doing something different than I do. It's also useful to practice imagining what positive goal a person might have for their, quote, different behavior. It's also important to cultivate one's own belief that underneath the many seeming differences in thinking and behaving, we humans are all looking for the same things, basically. Things like respect, knowing that we're valued, connection with others, safety, and especially love. Not everything is relative, of course. There are values and behaviors that are obviously better than others. To be a viable society, we need to live within and enforce certain parameters or restrictions. But it can help us avoid some conflicts. To remember that in the realm of human perception, thinking, and experience, many things are relative. Remembering that may help us to give each other a break sometimes and not just write each other off automatically or not just try to get rid of each other because the other person is different.